What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the graveyard. Today I just want to introduce a updated version of the Army of the Dead Necromancer PvP build. Now, I have gotten a few questions as to whether or not Trample or Empowering Grasp is the primary crowd control ability for this build, and I basically just wanted to show a quick and brief video. I'm not going to do the entire build, but just a couple of things I wanted to note on because I do get asked pretty frequently, and the answer is I use both. I interchange them depending on what the scenario is, if I'm doing Battlegrounds, if I'm doing Imperial City, if I'm solo, or if I'm with another ally. All those variables kind of play into whether I decide to use Trample or Empowering Grasp, and the quickest answer I could say is they both work just fine. Now, Empowering Grasp is going to give you some more crowd control capabilities. The first circle snaring, the second circle immobilizing, and the final circle CCing the enemy. It is AoE, so it's super helpful when you launch this into a group of people. And then, of course, it's going to be buffing your summons, damage, and healing by 1,000. Now, I'm going to make a separate video talking about how this is kind of bugged, how it works with the Arcanist and the Blast Bones simultaneously, but it does not affect the Ghost's healing. And then when the Ghost's healing is affected, the damage to the Arcanist does not get affected. But it seems to be pretty consistent with Blast Bones no matter what. Every time you cast Blast Bones and then launch Empowering Grasp, it gets the buff. But like I said, that's a video for another time. So in this video, I'm also going to show the stats, how I reach 43 to 44,000 max magic, where our health sits just around 34, 35,000, and then of course the spell damage I'm not going to be able to show you until Ritualist gets buffed next patch. It is going to do away with all of the max magic 2, 3, 4 piece that it provides. And then this instead is going to be weapon and spell damage. So all of this added up, we're going to be sitting just at like 39,998. Maybe, I can't remember the exact number, but the weapon and spell damage will be just at like 4,000, a little bit below or a little bit above. And then, of course, that'll go up respectively with our backbar stat, Rallying Cry, but I'm not including the 300 weapon and spell damage that you get from this because it's too inconsistent, and it is sometimes less depending on how many people are in your group. So we'll just go off the raw stats here. Once this is changed, we will have a base 4,000 weapon and spell damage fully buffed. So this is the Trample skill that I use. Also very effective. There is a lot of fun to be had with this skill. So this is basically the Alliance War skill line. You launch off whatever mount you have selected, and then this mount is AoE, and it has a 2-second delay before you launch it off. And the scribing skills that I have on it are the knockback, which provides physical damage up front. It's in a cone, essentially. I know it says an area, but the cone is pretty wide. I don't even know if it's a cone. You might even be able to get away with saying that's a 180 degree surface area. Like as far as like if I'm standing here and I launch this, like, and there's 2 enemies next to me, like say these gravestones are enemies, they're gonna get knocked back. It's pretty wide as far as like where the exact location where you have to be for this effect to happen to you. I've caught people off guard, like say they're like directly behind me like this, say this gravestone's an enemy player, and I launch this, they still get like knocked back somehow. So it's kind of bugged, or I wouldn't even call it bugged, it's just the way the mechanic of the skill works, but it is silly. But it is super effective. The second is the status effect signature script that's going to provide Concussed, Sundered, and Hemorrhaging. Super helpful, especially stacking with Elisus, giving us just a bunch of status effects, which then, of course, boasts our Baron Zodorus monster mask, and then the amount of status effects that we gain, we get ultimate for it. So that's how we're able to summon the Army of the Dead so quickly. Like I said, I use Trample and Grave Grasp, you know, depending on the situation. So this is also thankfully magic. If you do use the stun, which does not provide the knockback, it just stuns them in place, this will cost stamina. So keep that in mind as well. You can choose whichever version you feel comfortable with. I just like using everything for magic. That way I don't have to worry about the stamina bar. And then just to show off how we get all of our max stats, we did switch to Death Dealer's Fate. I know in the build video I was showing Sea Serpent's Coil with Swift Jewelry, but I did decide to switch it up a bit. I tried this out, and it is better performing in my opinion. Having max stats and then switching the food to Sugar Skulls, giving us even more max stats, really benefits the build because we have such a high resource pool that it buffs pretty much everything across the board. Since we are still in light armor, this buffs our healing, this buffs our amount of time that we can cast abilities without having to heavy attack for resources, and recovery is still not an issue on this build because I switched one of the jewelry pieces to a recovery glyph, and it helped out tremendously. Our Mundus is the Atronach, so that also helps out. So it's basically like 500 recovery on top of our base recovery. And then fully buffed up here, where we're sitting at just over 2100 for Magicka recovery, and that is before any other outside buffs too. And then of course, as you can see, our maximum magic is going up along with our health and stamina because of Death Dealer's Fate. And then as long as we stay in combat, that is going to continue to go up until each max stat receives a 2600 additional bonus to each of its tooltips. So now I know it doesn't look like, well, how do you reach, 40,000 plus max magic? If you see, our burst heal is also Healing Soul. Healing Soul's signature script is the class mastery script. So once every 3 seconds, health, magic, and stamina is going to go up 2% for 10 seconds for each corpse within 12 meters. When we are in Imperial City, or if we are in a battlegrounds like an 8v8s, depending on how many summons you have around too, there is, endless opportunities of getting corpses these days. So basically every time you burst heal yourself for 10 seconds, you are going to continue to get this class script here. So it's going to be boosting our max health, magic, and stamina for 2%, up to a maximum of 20%. So 20% increased max resources. This will place our magic, stamina, and health. Max magic will go up to about 43,000. Sometimes I think it hits 44 at some point too. Maximum health reaches about 35 to 36k, and then max stamina I think sits around anywhere between 24 and 25. So there is a lot of max stats in this build, and it is super helpful just with surviving. We can dodge roll quite a bit. We have a decent amount of health. That way if we do get hit by like a Nightblade or any pretty much martial based ability, because we are in light armor, we're going to get hit harder. We still have enough health to obviously dodge roll and recover and get out of the way. So that is the build in a nutshell. I'm going to link the actual build video down below, but I just basically wanted to go over the updated version and how I've been playing and pretty much how it's been successful for me, and showing you that you can pretty much use both Empowering Grasp and the Repelling Trample in the Assault scribing skill line. So it works out. It, like I said, doesn't matter, but depending on your playstyle, if you like the role play aspect, definitely go with Grave Grasp. It's still pretty useful. Some people hate it. Some people just think that it's not that useful, but I make it work. It's a lot of fun for me. With that being said, I'm not going to ramble on. Catch the build video down below in the description. If you liked this, definitely give me a follow, give me a like, join us in the graveyard on Discord, and then you can catch our live streams on Twitch and YouTube at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace out, guys. Stay frosty, and I'll see you in the graveyard.